My name is Samantha Clark. I am 32 years old, and I live in a place that everyone calls Dysfunction Junction. It is a small town known for its bizarre happenings, but that is just what happens when people are drawn together by the chaos of life. I work as a program manager, and my job entails a lot of responsibility. I have to manage a budget, order supplies, and oversee the entire process from ordering to stocking. This involved dealing with thousands of dollars worth of supplies, and I had to document everything meticulously. I was proud to say that I managed to do all of this with very few mistakes, even if it took a lot of time and effort. But despite my successes, my life at work took a sudden twist when the notorious master micromanaging Mope took over supervision of my section. Micromanaging Mope, or MMM as I often called him, was infamous in our organization for his tight grip over everything and everyone around him. I had heard the horror stories. People who had worked under him had recounted how he would squeeze every ounce of life out of his team. Long hours, weekends, and relentless pressure defined his reign. One of my friends even confided that he had worked a staggering 31 days straight, none of those shifts under 12 hours. Meanwhile, MMM seemed to have a different agenda. He would often be found flirting with admin assistants, chatting about online game show auditions, or using the company vehicle to visit a local strip club. Despite all of these distractions, he was married to a wonderful woman, which added a layer of irony to his character. When he began his reign of terror, the first thing he did was demand complete control over every single purchase I required for my work. He pounded his fist on the desk, insisting that I get his approval for everything. I raised my eyebrows at this absurdity, having shown him the extensive approval system already in place. But nothing could deter him. The pounding only grew more forceful. He was convinced that he alone could ensure accountability, which I found laughable. And so a sneaky idea started to form in my mind. I decided that I would play his game, but I would do it my way. I sent him an email that simply read, "MMM, I need an hour of your time to talk about pens." At that moment, I could sense the bewilderment on his face. He did not realize what I had in store for him. I walked into his office with a stack of notes, ready to discuss the most mundane topics that could possibly exist. I began with red pens, blue pens, black pens, and then went on to multicolor pens, Sharpies, and magic markers. I could tell he was trying to keep his cool, but his eyes were already starting to glaze over. "So, MMM," I said, drawing out the conversation as long as possible. "Should I get 100 black pens, or maybe 101? What do you think? If I was going to be subjected to micromanagement, then he might as well experience a taste of his own medicine." Every time he tried to take control of the conversation, I sidestepped him. "Okay," I continued. "What type of tip should I get? 0.5 millimeters, 0.7, or 1.0 millimeters? And should I go with ink or gel?" Each question I asked only drew out the process longer. I spent almost 2 precious hours of his time discussing pens. Just as I felt a sense of triumph bubbling inside me, I left his office with a knowing smile. "By the way, MMM," I called back, I will need another hour to discuss paper. Can I come by tomorrow at the same time? I glanced at him just as the color drained from his face. He looked utterly defeated, and really, I felt like I was winning this battle. The following day, I returned to his office, prepared with another list of tedious questions about paper types, sizes, and how many reams I should order. I could see the frustration bubbling beneath his surface as I poked and prodded at him with every little detail. Great. I will need another hour to talk about storage boxes, I said as I stood up to leave. His response was a groan filled with irritation. Just buy what you need. Just give me a copy of the receipts. Get out of here. I could hardly contain my delight, a smile cracking on my face as I replied, Done. See you later, MMM. This entire ordeal became my small act of revenge. While it may seem petty, it was incredibly satisfying to give that micromanaging Mope a taste of his own medicine. Over the next weeks, he could not hide the expression of defeat and confusion whenever he saw me. He had underestimated me, thinking he could hold me back while seeking petty control over a process that I had mastered. Eventually, the dynamic in our office shifted. I am not saying that my antics completely changed him. He was still the micromanaging Mope everyone loathed. However, he became slightly more tolerable toward my methods of working, and I was allowed to maintain more independence while doing my job. It was a victory, not only for me, but for everyone else who had felt the stifling pressure of his authority. Looking back on that experience, I came to realize that sometimes the smallest acts of resistance can create the largest ripples in a toxic environment. My life at work found a new normal, one where I grasped my power much more firmly than before. Evil comes in different forms, and MMM learned that there are ways to resolve the tension without having to endure its brute force. And while I never expected to emerge from that chaotic situation as I did, I found a new sense of confidence that carried me in my career. The cycle of dysfunction continued, but I was no longer just surviving. I was thriving, ready to face whatever ridiculousness dysfunction, junction, threw my way next.